Kayla, and today I wanted to talk about blind jokes. So I just wanted to give my opinion as a blind person on what I think about blind jokes and what kind of blind jokes are funny and what kinds are maybe not funny or are hurtful or offensive. And before I get started, I just want to clarify that this is just my opinion. I am only one blind person. I do not speak for the entire blind community. There will be some people who agree with me and some people who don't agree with me, which is perfectly fine because we are all individuals. So this is just my opinion. So let's just jump right in. Do I think blind jokes are funny? Yes, I do. I think that they are funny. I enjoy making blind jokes. I can appreciate a good blind joke that other people make, whether it's like friends or family making a blind joke towards me, or if it's like a comedian just making a general blind joke. I think for the most part, they are funny and I enjoy them. So as a blind person, I think that it is beneficial to my mental health to be able to joke about my blindness and laugh about it, because, being blind it's hard and it can be sad sometimes, and it's just a lot easier to deal with when you're able to make light of it and be able to laugh about it. But not everyone may be at that point. If some people are still kind of embarrassed or self-conscious about their blindness or just not completely comfortable with it, then they're probably not going to be comfortable with blind jokes. Whereas if someone is more open and accepting and confident about it, then they probably will be more receptive to blind jokes. And I'm a prime example because I used to be very embarrassed about my blindness and I never joked about it. And now that I'm more confident about it, I joke about it quite a bit. So when I was young, I grew up in a household where my vision impairment was not a laughing matter. It was something that was taken very seriously. We did not joke about it. We did not make light about it. We didn't laugh about it. It was like a very serious thing. And I've talked in videos in the past where I wish it wasn't like that, because I felt like I was really embarrassed and self-conscious about it because it was just like this really serious thing, and I wish it had been made light of and that my family would have joked about it. But since I was raised in the environment that, it wasn't funny and it wasn't something to joke about, then I didn't make jokes about my blindness. In fact, it was so rare that I ever made a joke about my blindness that I can remember pretty much the first and only time as a child that I made a blind joke. I was probably 9 or 10 years old, and when I was in elementary school, I would always take my worksheets in school up to the front office and ask them to enlarge them. And one day I was somewhere with my Girl Scout troop and we were out to eat, and they served these gigantic chicken tenders, and I said, I didn't need my chicken tenders enlarged. And everyone laughed, everyone thought it was funny, I thought it was funny, I was proud of myself for making a funny joke. But that was the only time that I really ever made a blind joke. It was just not something I ever joked about since I wasn't raised in that type of environment. It's just not something that I did. I joked around about everything else, that's just my personality. I've always had a good sense of humor and have always just kind of been sassy and sarcastic and joke around about things. I've always kind of been the funny friend. I just would never joke about my blindness until now when I joke about it all the time. So fast forward to, a couple of years ago when I really started to open up about my blindness and feel more confident about it. That's when I really started to joke around about it a lot more. And so now, me and my husband joke about it all the time. So just to give a couple of examples, one of my favorites is a couple of months ago, it was St. Patrick's Day, and I pinched my husband, and he was like, hey, I'm wearing green. And I said, I don't see any green. And another time I asked my husband to bring me my cane so I could sanitize it. And he comes in the kitchen with it unfurled and he's like whacking it around everywhere and goes, hi, I'm Kayla. Where is everybody? And I was just cracking up for a really long time. I thought it was hilarious. And then sometimes he'll say something, he probably doesn't want me to say this on camera, but he'll be like, oh, why didn't you tell me I have a booger in my nose? And I'll be like, oh, well, I saw it there, but I thought it would just be funnier if I didn't say anything. And we call each other blindo. So like if my husband doesn't see something, which he's fully sighted, but if he doesn't see something, I'll be like, how did you not see that, you blindo? Or if I am like going the wrong way, he'll say, hey, blindo, it's this way, or something like that. So those are just some examples of jokes that we make with each other. And that's just kind of how our relationship is. Like we're very playful. We both like to joke around, and like, I know my husband loves me and I know that he doesn't think negatively about my blindness. So, nothing he says is going to offend me. Like it's just all in good fun. And I also joke around with just like my friends and family. And I think that it helps people feel more comfortable with my blindness to be able to joke about it and laugh about it, because it just kind of makes light of the situation and says like, hey, this doesn't have to be this super serious, tragic thing. Like we can laugh about it. So I'll make jokes about it or just tell like funny or embarrassing blind moments of mine. And honestly, I think being blind gives you some really good comedic material, and it's a shame not to use it. And some sighted people are uncomfortable with blind jokes, and I personally think like that's their problem. My take on it is that I'm blind. I can make whatever blind jokes I want to. Like I can say whatever I want about myself and my own blindness. And if someone else is uncomfortable with that, then like that's their own hang up. I can see though how if someone made blind jokes excessively, that would make someone uncomfortable. I think joking about anything excessively tends to make some people uncomfortable. And I also think there's a difference between these kind of like playful and cheeky jokes that I described earlier and making more like self-deprecating jokes like, oh, I'm blind, I can't do anything, haha, or something, I don't know. But making like self-deprecating jokes I can see would make other people uncomfortable. But if you're just making like these light, like playful jokes, then, there's not a problem with that. Okay, so now let's talk about in what situations are blind jokes not funny. Number one, I think if a blind person is really embarrassed or self-conscious about their blindness, then they are probably not going to be very receptive to blind jokes. And I think if a blind person doesn't make blind jokes, like if they don't joke about their own blindness, then they're probably not going to be very receptive of you making a blind joke about them or about their blindness. And I think it's probably not a good idea for strangers to make a blind joke to a blind person, because you don't know that person. Like they could have just gone blind yesterday and it could be a very sensitive subject for them. You don't know. And that's kind of a really personal thing to joke about. So I'd say probably don't do that. All right, now let's talk about what kind of blind jokes that I think are not funny. There's a big difference between joking around and being mean. And, I think if you're saying anything derogatory towards a blind person, if they're not laughing with you, then it's mean. It's not a joke. Or I think some of the most common kinds of blind jokes that I think are not funny is people joking that blind people can't do something that they actually can, and they're kind of serious, like just joking like, oh, blind people can't do fill in the blank, ha ha ha, when we're like, yes we can. So for example, when I was in college, there was this Facebook page where people from my school would submit these messages and then the Facebook page would post them anonymously. And one day there was a post on there that said that blind Kappa Delta, which that was the sorority I was in, that was me. It said, that blind Kappa Delta is so hot. I hope she sees this. Oh wait, ... And I was just like, that's not funny. That's just ignorant. Like, obviously I can see this because I can use a computer. Blind people can use computers, whether through magnification or screen reading software. And I was in college and I had a Facebook, so obviously I could use a computer somehow. So I think jokes like that, like blind people can't use computers, they can't use phones, they can't have a job, they can't have relationships, they can't have kids, whatever, like any kind of jokes surrounding that, alluding to, blind people can't do this. I just think that they're not funny and they're ignorant and they really just kind of perpetuate the negative stereotype that we can't do anything or that we are incapable. Other types of blind jokes that I think are not funny are kind of more like physical jokes. So putting something in a blind person's way, making them trip over it, moving something of theirs or hiding something so they can't find it, and making some kind of gesture or, doing something like that where everyone else is laughing except for the blind person because everyone else can see what's going on and the blind person can't. At that point, you're not laughing with them, you're laughing at them because they don't even know what the joke is. They don't even know what you're laughing at. And, that's just really isolating. It's not funny if they're not in on the joke. So an example of that is when I was a freshman in high school, my friends that I ate lunch with would always play this game where they would take my snack cake and hide it from me. And when I would be like, okay, who took my snack cake? Where is it? They would be like, oh, what snack cake? You didn't have one, or you must have not taken it out of your lunchbox. And all of them saw who took it. They knew who took it. So it was a joke that everyone else was in on except for me. And it wasn't funny. And I think that's even kind of borderlining between joking and gaslighting for them to be like, oh, what snack cake? You never had one, and kind of made me question it. Oh, and I'll just throw out there too, sighted people making jokes claiming that they are blind are not funny. So when people are like, oh, I can't see that, I'm so blind, ha ha ha, not funny. And know your audience. So there you have it. That's my opinion on blind jokes and when they are funny, when they aren't funny. And this will differ for everyone. We are all individuals with our own unique sense of humor. And so, we will all have different opinions on what blind jokes are funny or are not. And I think as blind people, it's our job to tell someone if they have made a blind joke that was hurtful or offensive or just not funny, and tell them why, so then they know the difference between what is and is not an acceptable blind joke to you. And especially if you have a relationship with that person and you want to be able to joke with them, to explain to them why that specific joke wasn't funny so that it doesn't just discourage them from making any blind jokes ever again in the future. So I hope you guys liked this video. Let me know down in the comments below what your opinion is. Tell me what you think about blind jokes, and tell me what your favorite blind joke is. If you have a favorite or just a blind joke that you have made that you thought was particularly funny, let me know down in the comments below because I would love to read those. And I will see you guys next time.